Hello there, it's Kim again coming to you with another paper crafting creation. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based out of the Okanagan, British Columbia, Canada, and today I'm here to show you a little calendar. These are so cute. I'm using the Beautiful Butterfly Bundle, the BBB, Beautiful Butterfly Bundle, and yeah, I just made this lovely little calendar with that bundle. We've got the bokeh paper, we've got the dies. This one here is a die cut shape that cuts out a card. So it is placed on the top, but you can see it cuts out your two layers, or it can cut out a front flap. It's really cool. I originally was like, do I need no more butterflies? And then when I saw that it cut out a card shape, I was like, okay, well, I gotta have that now. Yeah, so let's work on this today. I'll show you how. It is also mailable because it lays flat. When you go to put it on a desk, of course, it opens up, but it does lay flat. So you can mail it to somebody special, put it on a little kiddo's bedside table so they know what day of the week it is. Anywho, okay, so let's get started. Okay. We're going to start off with showing you all the pieces and components that we have. So, got everything cut here. All of the pieces we need. So we're going to start off, you're going to have one sheet of white cardstock, and that is going to be measured at 8.5 by 5.5. Okay. Then we're going to have a piece of balmy blue, and that's going to be measured at 8.5 by 4 3/4. Then another piece of balmy blue. This is for your die cuts, and I fit them all in. It was a tight squeeze, but I used 1/4 of a sheet of cardstock. So this is a 5.5 by 4 1/4, which is a normal measurement for 1/4 of a piece of paper. Then we have our beautiful bokeh paper, bokeh. Not sure how it's pronounced. I'm probably butchering it, but bokeh paper, and I chose the blue family. We're kind of just going with the same color family here. So we've got 4.5 by 3 inches, and we've got 2 of those. So this is 6 by 6 sheets of paper. So there's 6 by 6. So there's 3 inch, 3 inch, and you'll have a sliver left over. Okay. Then we've got some, what color is this? Azure Afternoon. And this is 5.5 by 1 inch. This is also for die cuts. We've got our mini tear-off calendar from Tailored Expressions. You can get these every year, and they do remind you. When do they remind you? They remind you just at the beginning of December. Make sure you do not forget to order more calendars. So there is a little reminder in there to order more. And then we've got a piece that would be approximately, if you were to do this without it being die cut already, it would be 2 1/4 by 3 1/4. That's the approximate size you would need to do your sentiment on your calendar. Okay, so now that we've got all those pieces, let's get started. I'm actually going to pull in the big die cut machine right away, just so I can get that started. We'll get those pieces all out of the way before we start doing any of the fun decorating. So I'm bringing in a Big Shot machine. Stampin' Up! Has their own machine called the Stamp Cut and Emboss machine. I'm using the old one. I don't have a new one. My new one is just very little. I have a little one, but some of these pieces are bigger. So we're going to pull in the Big Shot here. So I'm going to be cutting up my Azure Afternoon. I'm going to be cutting up my balmy blue 1/4 sheet piece, and then I'm also going to be cutting this white sheet. So I'm just going to collect all those pieces, get those pulled in. So here's the stamp set that we are using today. It's called Beautiful Butterflies. I am using another stamp set called Encircled in Nature, just for this sentiment piece. So if you wanted to change out the sentiment part, you could. I just love this for a calendar. It says, "May this year be incredible and filled with possibilities." I just think that's great. Okay, so Beautiful Butterflies stamp set, and the cutting parts. Now, this also came with an embossing folder. I've got a couple extra pieces here that were cut out, flying out. This comes with an embossing folder, and the embossing folder is an emboss and cut folder. So this piece here actually will cut you out a beautiful butterfly that is embossed right out of the embossing folder. These are the rest of the die cuts that come with it. So we are going to use the rest of them today, not that one. We did do a project on the weekend with that one. So we're going to pull out our big butterfly. These two little butterflies. Okay. We're going to pull out this big, huge butterfly. That's going to be for our white piece. And the body pieces for the butterfly. So here we go. 1, 2, and 3. Now you only really need to use one of these, but it makes it go faster if you use as many as you can. Okay. So I'm going to put these away and put these aside, and we will start cutting our pieces. So I can show you how I set those all up. I'm going to pull in my trusty Post-it notes for today as well. Why not use the blue ones? We're doing blue today. Okay, so the first we're going to do is we're going to cut this butterfly at the top here. Then we're going to cut another one out of the remainder area. And leaving enough space for another butterfly, I'm going to cut another one out of this corner, just so I can get another butterfly out of the bottom here. Okay, so we put in our base plate, a clear plate that's, you know, cut up pretty bad, and then a top plate. This top plate will eventually become my bottom plate. That's how I move them through their stages of life. Okay, so now you're going to squeeze it tight, and we're going to pinch it and push it through until that arm starts to dance. Once I see that arm is dancing, I know it's kind of caught on and it's squeezing the plates. Then I'm going to put my hand on the handle and we're going to run it through. Now this just does shake the camera a little bit, but once we get through all of this, we won't have to worry about that anymore. Okay, so then what I do is I just go and I double check. So I push it over here and double check that everything's cutting out. It looks like I do have a couple of bits that I don't feel are perfectly cut. I mean, I could visually be overthinking that, but I'm going to run it through one more time on the big butterfly just to make sure it's cut through. Usually I try to move it around a little bit to make sure I'm getting that cut. Then I'm going to take your pick tool, or if you have a toothpick will work too. I just poke a hole in that corner and separate that from the die cut plate. There we go. And then I take all these little bits and I poke them out with my toothpick or with my take your pick tool. Okay, there we go. We've got that good. Now we need to cut that one more time. So we're going to place it here. You can see there's enough space for it, so that's great. We're making the most out of that little piece of paper. Run that through once and twice. And if I'm worried about it at all, I can just flip it around, let the machine kind of grab it from another angle, whoop, and run it through a third time. And now all those pieces should just fall out very easily once I'm ready there. Okay. So just poking out that corner. You can see how easy it is to use these machines. I do love doing this. Some people might find this fussy. I mean, fussy cutting to me is a lot fussier than this. This does the work pretty easily. But the one thing I wasn't fond of when I heard about like the machines that do all this kind of cutting is that it doesn't allow me to like touch the paper as much. I was using a computer more. So I used to work with computers. So I wanted to come home and not work with computers anymore. So that's why I got into this style of paper crafting. To each their own, right? Whatever works for you. So then this one here was a card base, essentially. It was 8.5 by 4.25. And we're just going to fold it at the score line. I scored it at 4 or it's 5.5 by 8.5, and then I'm scoring it at 4.25. And then I'm going to take my butterfly die cut here. And if you look on this die cut, if you can look, you can see there's this little line here. So we're going to take this little line and we're going to line it up with the edge of our paper. Now, if you go like this and kind of push on it, it will naturally grab the end of the paper. It just kind of wants to line up with the edge of that paper. Like I'm tugging it and it's there. It wants to stay there. So that's kind of how I used my guide. I lined that up with the edge of my fold, and then I pulled on the die cut, pushing down lightly. I pulled in the die cut till it grabbed. Then I grabbed a Post-it note and I placed it over the die when it was nice and secure, and posted it, like used the Post-it note to get it to grab onto that plate. Okay, it should be pretty solid there now. Okay, so then we're just going to run that one through the machine, just like we did with all of the other pieces. And then we're going to do our little body, and that will be our last piece, because I cut the sentiment piece already, but I will show you what die cuts I used for that. Okay, so now we've got a lovely butterfly. There we go. So let's get rid of these little pieces here. Put this butterfly die cuts aside. My desk is always a mess, but I want to show you the mess, so we'll just leave that. Okay, now we need all these little body pieces. I can't seem to pick them up, so I'm gonna roll them off the end of my table here. 1 and 2 little baby bodies, little baby butterfly bodies. Lots of bees today. Bee, 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 bee. Okay, so these ones are going to put a little to the left because my other butterfly body is longer than this area. So I'm going to leave that side open so I can get a really good cut on it. And I'm not going to worry about putting Post-it notes on there because I can see right through that I'm getting a really good grab on those. Okay. So we're just going to run those through the machine. Yeah, lots of bees. Balmy blue, beautiful butterfly, bokeh, butterfly bodies. Just lots of bee today. Vitamin B, happy. Okay. We've got those 2 little bodies. So if you already know how to do all this stuff, it's so easy to just fast forward through and go to the fun stuff, right? And here we go. Here's the last little body piece. Then I'm going to quickly show you the last piece I had. Let's put that away. And then I'll show you the last set I used to cut out this shape, which we already talked about, this shape right here. The last piece I used was the Nested Essentials dies, and we use the biggest flag here. So this is a great one to have if you're trying to do lots of just simple shapes. That's a perfect one to have. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of some of this stuff. We're just gonna be making more, poking out more here. Okay, so we've got our white one, we've got these 2 butterflies here, and I'm just going to lightly push on there, and because they were cut so well, you can see all those little pieces are just coming out with a little brush of my hand. If you have a fun one, just grab your toothpick or take your pick, you can get those ones out. So we've got 1 piece there, 1 piece here. Being a little grabby. It's being a little grabby today. But you can see most of them just fall away. They just fall away with a little rub of your hand, and There good. 2 butterflies. Grab our 2 little baby butterflies here. I should be chewing bubble gum while I'm doing this, just to make the bees even more funny. Well, actually, can you imagine if I was chewing bubble gum? That would be the funniest thing. Okay, that one grabbed a little bit. Doesn't seem to be cutting as well. I should have ran this one through. I think maybe because I squished it through, I pushed the fibers back into each other again, because I ran it through without pulling it out of the paper. Yeah. I should have just pulled this one out right away when I knew it was cut. Okay, so there's our second. We've got 1 body, big body, 2 of those, 2 of the small ones. We'll put these aside, and then we will put our little dies aside, get them out of the way. I have this nifty little magnet thing, so I can just toss them in there and they will stay there until I'm ready to put them fully away. Okay. Clean work surface again. Yay! Okay, next up, we are going to take our paper snips and cut the center of the butterfly out. So we'll grab our little paper snips here. And this body doesn't really match up with this one. You can see we've already got a body that we're going to use, so we just need to cut that one out of there. So I just follow the shape of the wings here, and I cut till I see about center to here. Then I cut from this side in the shape of the wings down to the center. There we go. Got rid of that piece. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to cut from the center of the wings, just following that natural shape that's already there in the card, and then cut that out. Okay, then we're going to open this up and we're going to do a lot of our little stamping here. So we're going to bring in our Azure Afternoon, and we're going to bring in our stamp set here and pull out all the little stampies that we're going to need. So I have a ton of blocks behind me here because it does take a few to do this. So we're going to grab our little dots out of the set. That's going to be 1 stamp. We're going to grab both of our wing designs. That's another stamp set. And I think that's it for that one. And then we're going to grab our Encircled in Nature, pull that out, grab our sentiment piece as well. There we go. So we've got all of our stamp sets out now. We'll put those here and here. Now I'm going to pull in a scrap piece of paper because we are going to be stamping kind of over the edges of our pieces here. So first up, we are going to decorate our little wings. And how I'm doing that is I'm taking this piece here and I'm assuming that that's kind of the bottom of a wing design. Okay, so this is kind of like, I'm assuming that this is closest to the body of the butterfly. So that's one side, and then same thing on this side. So we're going to stamp our stamp pad, and we're going to line up the edge, like this edge here, this edge on this side. We're gonna put that naturally towards the bottom of the wing here, and we're gonna try and make this point here on the stamp set. We're gonna place that as close to the center of the body as we can. So lining up, we're going to go just like this. There we go. And then we're going to take that and we're going to flip it around, and that piece is now going to become the top on the opposite end. So we're going to go like this. Looking good. And because there's another butterfly coming into play here, if it overlaps, that's fine, right? It's just to create visual texture with the butterfly. So again, the bottom of that butterfly wing, We're going to place that there. And you can see it's overlapping, right? Not a big deal. And we're doing the same thing here, lining up with the wing and going towards the center. So there's your center texture that you're getting on your wings. And we're going to flip it over, and we're going to do the exact same thing on the back of the butterfly. So this one here was here and up here. Taking our second one, stamping on the left hand side with this one here. And here. Now put those two aside to be washed. Then we're going to pull in our little dots. And I'm going to do some second generation stamping. So that's where you stamp it off and then you stamp it on. And you can see it makes a lighter shade of the same color. So we're using the same stamp pad, but we are getting a different color. And I stamp those off, and then I just place them willy-nilly on the outside of the wings here. We're doing that all the way around. So the weather has been so nice in our area. It definitely makes me think of all of the little insects that are probably starting to wake up. The bees are waking up. The butterflies are going to come out soon. And I'm not much of a green thumb, but I'm thinking it would be really nice to plant some butterfly-friendly plants in our yard this year. And one of the ladies that came to class was talking about one of our local nurseries, and I just thought, you know, maybe I should try a little harder to bring some of those plant-friendly plants into our yard. It would be such a nice idea. Now, if your stamp pad gets a little bit yucky like this one, just wipe it with a baby wipe, or you could actually just run these right under the tap of the sink. So now I've just got mine cleaned. I used my stamp cleaner to clean it off a bit. And that happens when you press a little too hard into the stamp pad. You'll actually make contact with the pad with your block. I just have to be a little gentler with my hand. And now I'm not having as much of a problem. It's if you tip your block a little bit when you're stamping there. Yeah. So this is just a nice, calm activity, kind of like fussy cutting or coloring. You might do stuff like this to just get your heart rate down and enjoy some creative time. Okay, so there we go. That's done. And then I'm going to pull this one in, and I'm just going to stamp that sentiment. Let's just get that done. And we're stamping our sentiment on the left, as close to the left-hand side as we can, without going over the textured pieces of the. And if you wanted to do this, you could just cut a rectangle and then flag the end. If you don't have a die cut machine, that works just fine too. Okay. Oh, I do need to keep that open because I need to do some blending. So we're going to put that to the left, and then I'm going to take my stamp pad here. I'm going to tap in my blending brush. Now this is not a Stampin' Up! Blending brush. It is an off-brand, but it does the trick. It does the same thing. So you tap it here, and then in a circular motion, we're going to go from the edge of our wings, and we're going to blend in some color on the edge of those wings. So tap, tap off, and then blending in a circular motion. Now the reason why I tap off is because a lot of times you can get a brush like this. So if you can see that, when you do your first one, it always has a bit of a dark spot to it. So if you tap it off and then you do it, it doesn't give that dark spot. So that's a little tip for you there. So then we're just going to go in from the edge in a circular motion and just putting a little bit of color on the edges there. Now, the ladies that came to class, they didn't do as much blending on their wings as I did on my first original one. And I thought the white was so fresh and lovely that I'm going to do just a little bit of blending today. So you can blend this as much as you want to whatever desired strength you'd like it to be. It's all up to you, however you see it. But yeah, my first one I did a lot of blue blending. I was really coloring that paper. And then I noticed it kind of looked really nice with the white because this sentiment here is very, very white. And you think you don't have a lot on there, and then when you pull it away from the paper, like this edge here where you see all the blending, you pull it away, you notice like, wow, I really did get a lot of blue on there. There was a lot more than I thought. Just a touch on the inside here. There we go. All right, we're gonna close that stamp pad up so I don't get it all over me. Okay, there we go. Okay, next phase is to probably, let's make these butterflies. So I'm gonna grab my green glue here, Tombow glue, and I'm just gonna put the tiniest little bead of glue down the center of my butterfly. We're going to place that so the wings are just inside of the wings on there, and the little butt is coming out the bottom there. Okay, then flip it over. Another small bead of glue up your butterfly center there, placing that one in the center. Then we're going to grab our little body, well actually the big bodies, and the bottom of the butterfly body will just come below here. So I'm going to put glue just in the center space here because it will overlap on the bottom. Okay. It's just usually a little bit over the bottom there. Okay, and then we're going to flip it around again and do the exact same thing on the other side. You can see how quickly this butterfly is coming together. There and there. Perfect. All right. We'll put that aside and then we'll start working on our base. So our base piece here, and we're pulling in our base piece. Those are my extra butterflies from before. Pulling in our base piece. Now I want to show you what I did to this. Oh, I forgot something. I always forget something. So I'm going to go over and grab my cutter because I always forget something. And it's my cutter today. Okay. So this is our cutter. And we have a scoring tool on our cutter, which is fabulous. Somebody was paying attention and decided to combine the two. So it's fabulous that they did that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to place the 8.5 inch side of our piece. Remember, this was 8.5 by 4 3/4. And I'm going to score it at 3 1/8. Okay. And we're going to take the scoring blade, make sure your cutting blade is out of the way. We're going to take our scoring blade and we're going to score it at 3 1/8. I got to pull out the arm here. We're going to score it at 6 1/4. 6 1/4. We are going to score it at 7 1/4. And we're going to score at 8 1/4. And that will leave us just a sliver there. Okay. Then we're going to take our bone folder, which I'm missing that too. Ha ha ha. I'm going to use my glue, the end of my glue today. So we're going to use our bone folder or the end of your glue or whatever you have. And we're going to score those lines. So all of them, we're scoring those inwards. And we're making mountains out of these ones. By mountain, I mean that style. Again, we've got a mountain. And then we're going to fold this one back accordion style, make a valley. And then this one here is going to be folded inward as well. And there we go. Everything's pretty lined up there. Then I'm going to take a little bit of glue. You can use tear and tape if you have tear and tape. This is tear and tape, but the tear and tape to me is a little bit wide for this. So as you can see, the tear and tape is just a touch wide. It's just a touch wide to do this, so you would be folding it in. So having your little glue stick ready to go is probably the easiest. So I'm just going to take a small bead of glue. I don't want too much because I don't want to squeeze out the edges, right? And then glue down when it's flat. So I'm just taking a small bead of glue here. There we go. And then we will take our top edge here and we will fold it over that bottom piece. Press it down. Make sure it's nice and good. And then I'm going to take a stamping block or my stamp pad, something to just hold that down for a second. Okay, then I will bring in some string here. We're going to grab the Baker's Twine 3 color pack. We're going to pull in the Balmy Blue one here. Now in the kit I made earlier, I already had a bow tied. So I won't have to do that. You tie your bow whichever way you like to tie your bow. You can use a fork, you can use a bow tire thing, or just tie it by hand. So placing a glue dot on the top corner of that, so the top right hand corner, I placed a glue dot and I've placed my twine, pinched it down so that it attaches to that glue dot, and then I'm going to wrap it around twice, making sure I kind of cross it in the center. So attaching it back to that glue dot if I can, and across in the center, and then all the way back here, and then attach it back to that glue dot again. Then I'm going to trim it off, and when I go to place my dimensionals on here, I'm going to place them over these pieces of twine so that it stays nice and strong and secure. Okay, then we're going to grab another glue dot. This time I'm going to take the bow that I have tied and I'm going to press it into my glue dot, squeeze it to pinch it off, and then I'm going to place it on the crossed area. So the way I move this twine up so that that crossed area goes is I just stick my finger kind of in between the two bottoms and I push it up, and then that crossed part moves along there. Okay, so then we're placing our bow just where the two pieces of twine are crossing over. And if your twine wasn't crossed over in the front, you can just squeeze it together and then put the bow on there and it'll look like it was crossed over in the front. Little trick there. Okay, so now we're going to put that aside. Let's pull back in our piece. It's had some time to attach now. So now we're going to bring in our two pieces of Designer Series paper. And again, those are measuring 3 by 4.5. So you will have 1/8 of an inch all the way around except for the top. I wanted it to be flush with the top so that you wouldn't have a border like this out the top of it. I wanted it to be nice and flush so it kind of like the butterfly is flowing into the air. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Seal, and the lovely thing about this paper is this side of the paper is like a speckle. So this side's bokeh and this side's a speckle. Now the original one I did on the bokeh side, this one, I think I'm going to do it. No, I like the bokeh too much. I can't switch the sides, but you know what? You let me know in the comments if you like the other side better. It's hard to decide. It's always hard to decide. You always know that you're covering up one nice piece. So I'm lining that up with the top, and then I'm lining down this corner, all evenly spaced, right? Then when I go to lay it down on the other side, it should be nice and evenly spaced. That's my trick. I line up 2 points, nice and evenly spaced on all sides, and then when I lay it down, usually the other side. If the measurements are correct, it should be good. But dry placing it too and double checking that you cut properly is a really good idea. Then pull it back off and then add your adhesive. That saves you from being disappointed if you were just off by a touch of a measurement, right? Because it happens to the best of us. I'm going to roll that over a little bit. Okay. And here we go. Lining up those corners, laying that down. Okay, next up, I'm going to take my butterfly and I'm going to adhere this to the top of my piece here. So I'm going to grab my butterfly and I'm going to open it up like this. This was how I did it. I lined it up on my grid paper. Let's say I start at the 5, 4 3/4. My butterfly is essentially the same width as the card, as you can see here, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to follow those grid lines all the way up, line up our butterfly on those grid lines, right? So I've got this lined up at the bottom here, nice and straight, and I want to tuck in the bottom of the wings as much as I think I need. So if I lay this down, I think I need a little bit more. So I'm going to come down a little bit more. So that's lining me up pretty nicely with the top of this line here. So I will line it up with the top of that line, center it between these two, so we're nice and straight, and then I'm going to pick this up, and I could see that I just needed some glue on the bottom there. So I'm going to grab my glue very gently, place some glue there. Then bring this back in, lining it up with the 5-inch line because that's what I chose, right? That's the line I chose on the left-hand side was my 5-inch. My grid paper here. I'm just going to lay this down over top. Now my little butterfly wings should be adhered quite nicely to that. Okay? Then I'm going to take a little bit of glue and place it on the top on my wings on this end, knowing that I'm about maybe a 1/2 inch, right? So a little bit of glue there. We're going to flip flap that one right over, and it's going to adhere on the front here. Holding that down for a second. Okay, and now we get to decorate our front pieces here. So this is the side. I'm just gonna slap this calendar right on there. So we're going to use, we can use seal. So I'm just gonna use my seal here and adhere that nice and centered. So I went about, was it 1/2 inch? 1/2 inch up. I went from the bottom and then I centered it to the right and left. Nice and straight. So there's my calendar side completed. Then I'm flipping it over and I'm going to finish up this side. So now to finish up this side, we're going to take some dimensionals and we're going to place them underneath our sentiment here. You can use large dimensionals or the small ones. I'm just going to use the small ones today, mini dimensionals, because they just happen to be what I have in front of me. So I will use those. They work just the same. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my Take Your Pick tool because I love it for this. You just poke in the back of your dimensionals and you like pull up and it takes that backing right off. No need to have perfectly primed nails for that. Okay. Then we're going to place this one on the left-hand side about 1/4 inch from the left-hand side, or from the right-hand side. I'm going to go from the right-hand side about 1/4 inch over, and we're just going to lay that down. And there we go. Next up, we need to put our little butterfly bodies on there. So we're going to grab our glue again. And I always like to put the glue on the piece that's going onto it. Unless there's a specific reason why, I generally like to do that because I don't want to go over the space that's allotted. Like if I put glue underneath this and I went like this and I'm going to put my glue down and then I place it on and I'm like, oh, I've got all this extra glue where that piece of paper wasn't going to go. Nobody's wanting to do that. Then you have to pull out your adhesive eraser and fix the mess or undo, which is another good product. But I don't want to use undo if I don't have to use undo. Okay, so there we go. We've got our 2 butterflies there. Now, if you wanted to, you can take your bone folder and you just grab your bone folders. This isn't my bone folder because, like I said, I didn't bring it over. Silly me. You just roll the edges of the wings over your bone folder. So you take your thumb and you just press into your thumb and it will give a curve to the wing like that. So then it looks a little more 3-dimensional for your project. How did I forget my bone folder? Jeez Louise. Okay. And again, this is so much better with a bone folder. I will tell you it is a nifty thing to have as your bone folder, but I am improvising here. Okay, so then we're going to take a little dab of glue behind. If you wanted to, you can use glue dots for these things too. Some people use glue dots for everything because they just do not trust themselves with the liquid glue. It's a nightmare for them. And glue dots are fabulous replacement for that. They are just a little bit sticky, but they don't. You just pop one of them on the back and there you go. Okay. So there's our 2 butterflies done. Now we're going to pull in our itty bitty bokeh mix. Itty bitty bokeh mix. And this is just a whole bunch of shimmery, shiny little bits in here. So we're just going to, willy-nilly again, place a whole bunch of dots of glue all over the place, and we're going to place these down. Another thing about the Take Your Pick tool that is fabulous, sometimes if you put a little bit in the lid, it's easier to get access to them. It has a little rubber tip on here, like a little putty tip, and you just use that to pick up your little piece and you place it on your glue. So you can either do this with a glue dot. Some of them might be a little small for a glue dot, but if you can handle it, just the tiniest little squeeze and you can put little dots all over your project. Just with the tiniest little squeeze of glue here, we can add. Now I like to go in odd numbers, so I'm going to put 5 on here. I've got 5 little dots of glue now. I'm going to take 5 little itty bitty bits and I'm going to place them on here. Just randomly choosing my little bitty bits. A lot of the stuff from Stampin' Up! Has self-adhesive backs on them, but when it comes to these shaker mixes, they don't have any adhesive on them because they can be used for shaker cards, which are super fun. Shaker cards are fabulous. If you want, you can use your scissors to kind of help you with this. Put a little dot like that right there. Grab another bigger one. We'll put that bigger one up there. There we go. And another little smaller one. No. I'm going to do a smaller. What should I do? You know what? I'm going to put one of these bright pink ones on there. Why not? It's like a hot purpley pink kind of one, but when you move them, they are so pretty. Okay, and then on this side, I'm going to put 3. So I'm just going to grab my glue again. 1, upper right, or upper left, and then I'll put 2 down at the bottom here. Okay, I'm going to grab one of the clear white ones. Put that that one down there. And then a little smaller one, a little smaller pretty one. I want to say they're blue, but they change color. And then a bigger bluish one of this big dot up here, big dot of glue. So I'm going to use a bigger one. Again, I'm just going to take my scissors to get it off my putty. There we go. All right. So then we've got 3 little pretty decorations there. And that is our little mini calendar for today. This would be great to give to somebody who helps you all the time, works in an office, you know, and with these little calendars, you can make them in any paper you want. You do not have to do an elaborate butterfly at the top. They are great little calendars for the year. I know we're already into March. Man, did that go fast. It felt like January took forever, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're into March already. Yeah, so this is our little project and creation for today. I hope you like it. I hope it inspires you to create more yourself. And I just want to say thank you again for watching. I do appreciate you watching, and I love it when you make little comments or tell me what your favorite side of the paper is. Just interacting with you is really fun. We will talk to you next time. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.